Hey Reddit, throwaway account because some friends follow my main. I've been holding this in for months and I finally feel like I can start sharing it. Maybe it'll help someone out there, or maybe it'll just help me process. Either way, here goes. My wife, Karen, not her real name, but honestly, it fits, and I have been together for 10 years, married for 7. We have a 6-year-old son, Liam, who's the light of my life. I used to think we were a solid team. We had our ups and downs, sure, but we always worked through things, or at least I thought we did. We both work full time, but I work longer hours. I'm in IT, and there were times I had to pull 12-hour shifts. Karen worked part time at a salon and picked up Liam from school most days. I trusted her completely. Never in my wildest dreams did I think she was capable of doing what she did. Looking back now, I can see the small cracks that started forming about a year ago. She started spending more time at Liam's soccer practices, staying longer after the games to help organize snacks or talk to the other moms. I didn't think much of it. Liam was happy, and I was just grateful she was so involved. Then came the phone passcode change. I asked why she changed it, and she got defensive fast. I need some privacy too, she snapped. Okay, red flag, but I let it slide. I didn't want to seem controlling. She started dressing up more when she was just running errands. New perfume, shorter skirts. She said she was just trying to feel sexy again. I complimented her, encouraged her. I thought maybe she was going through something and I wanted to support her, but then she started treating me like I was the problem. She picked fights over nothing, said I didn't listen anymore or that I was always too tired. I tried to be better. I cooked more, planned date nights, even suggested counseling, but she always had an excuse. It's not that serious, she'd say. We're just in a rut. Little did I know the rut she was talking about was her sliding into someone else's bed. That's all for part 1. I'll post part 2 tomorrow, where things start to unravel. Trust me, it gets insane. Let me know if anyone's actually interested in hearing more. TLDR, my wife started acting off a year ago. New clothes, secretive phone habits, and picking fights. I thought she was going through something. Turns out she was just not what I imagined. So here's where things really started to feel off. About 6 months ago, Karen started being weirdly obsessed with Liam's soccer team, like over the top involved. She volunteered for everything: snacks, uniforms, carpooling other kids, you name it. She also kept dropping Coach Brent's name. Brent said this: Brent's such a great coach. Brent's doing private lessons for the kids now. At first, I didn't care. Cool, the guy's good with kids. Great. But then one night, Liam casually says, Coach Brent was at our house when Daddy was working late. I froze. What do you mean? I asked him. He shrugged. He was helping Mommy carry juice boxes, I think. Then they told me to go play in my room. My gut twisted. When I brought it up to Karen later that night, she exploded. Oh my God, you're interrogating a 6-year-old now? I can't have people over without being accused of cheating? You don't trust me at all anymore. She went full DEFCON 1 over what I thought was a pretty casual question. That night, I started paying attention. She started guarding her phone like it was nuclear launch codes. She'd take it into the bathroom, into the laundry room, even into the garage. I started noticing her texting late at night saying it was just her friend Kim. Funny, Kim apparently sends her memes at 1:30 a.m. and makes her smile like a teenager. One day I was homesick. She didn't know. She thought I had gone into work. And that's when it happened. I saw her pull into the driveway, and she wasn't alone. Brent was in the passenger seat. She looked around before walking in. He followed. I sat in the car in the garage. I waited. 10 minutes later, I walked inside as quietly as I could, and then I heard them. Upstairs. Her laugh, his voice, then silence. Then rhythmic noises I'll never be able to erase from my brain. I didn't confront them then. I walked out, sat in my car, drove to a friend's place. I wanted to scream, throw up, burn the house down. Instead, I took a deep breath and started documenting everything. I wasn't just going to catch her, I was going to expose her. Part 3 will cover the confrontation. Trust me, Karen didn't disappoint with her performance. My wife brought the coach over while I was at work. My son accidentally tipped me off. I caught them red-handed. Didn't confront yet. So after I caught them in the act, literally, I didn't go in guns blazing. I'm not the screaming type. I'm the watch, record, just and destroy you later in court type. I needed a plan and I needed proof. Over the next 2 weeks, I installed a small security camera in the living room, she never noticed, and a voice activated recorder under the couch. I also pulled our shared phone records and found an insane number of late night calls and texts between her and Brent. One call lasted over 4 hours at midnight. So, no, Karen, I don't think you were talking about juice boxes. Anyway, on to the confrontation. I waited until a Saturday when I knew Brent would be at Liam's game. Karen was dressed like she was going to a nightclub, miniskirt, heels, full glam, not soccer mom attire. I followed her there and stayed back. They were all over each other, not physically, but their body language, obvious. Laughing too close, her touching his arm, him whispering in her ear. I took photos, a lot of them. That evening when she came home, I was waiting in the living room, calm, silent, just watching her as she walked in and froze like a deer in headlights. Me, hey babe, how was the game? Fine. Why are you sitting there like that? Just thinking about Brent. What about him? Her face instantly flushed. Bingo. I dropped a folder on the coffee table. Inside, phone records, photos, a screenshot of a text thread I had pulled from our iCloud backup. She forgot to disable sync. Some spicy stuff in there. Her calling him Coach Daddy. Him saying he loved sneaking around. She stared at the folder like it was a ticking bomb. Then the performance began. You went through my stuff? That's abuse. You're crazy. Me, you've been sleeping with our son's coach for months. No, I haven't. Those texts were jokes. You don't understand how adults flirt. It's just a game. We never did anything. Oh, so now emotional affairs are just games? Then I dropped the voice recorder file on the table, pressed play. It was her moaning, loudly, calling his name, telling him I've never felt this alive before. She lunged for the recorder like a wild animal, screaming, red-faced, trying to yank the cord out of the wall. I just sat there, calm. And then I said, I want a divorce. She lost her mind. I mean, lost it. Screaming, crying, throwing herself on the floor. You can't do this to me. Think about Liam. We can fix this. You're being dramatic. You're ruining our family. No, Karen, you ruined it. She locked herself in the bathroom for 2 hours, sent her sister a text saying I was emotionally abusive and trying to ruin her life. Classic move. Make me the villain. I slept on the couch that night. She screamed at me again at 3 a.m., claimed I pushed her into this by not being romantic anymore. No apology, no ownership, just blame. Part 4 is where it starts to get legal and petty. TLDR, I confronted my wife with photos, texts, and audio of her affair. She denied everything, lied, screamed, blamed me, and played the victim. I told her I wanted a divorce. So after I told her I wanted a divorce, she went into full-blown meltdown mode. I don't mean crying quietly in the corner. I mean dramatic pacing, screaming into pillows, throwing wine glasses at the kitchen wall. Yes, that happened, and making late-night sobbing phone calls to her friends. Loud enough for me to hear. She spent the next week cycling between 3 moods. 1, begging. Please, just give me one more chance. We can go to therapy. It didn't mean anything. 2, gaslighting. You're overreacting. Nothing even happened. It was just emotional. 3, raging. You're destroying this family. You're so cold. I should have left you years ago. She also started weaponizing Liam. She'd suddenly become super mom overnight, baking cookies for his class, volunteering for everything, taking him to the park at 7 a.m. just to bond. It was obvious she was trying to win some kind of imaginary custody war before I had even filed anything. Then came the most disturbing part. She started rewriting history. She told her friends and family that I had been cheating, that I was emotionally distant and probably seeing someone else for months. She even told her mom that I manipulated Liam into lying about Brent being at the house. The level of lying was Olympic. And then she dared to suggest we just forget this happened and move on. Let's take a break from fighting, she said. Maybe we can just hit the reset button. I told her there was no reset button for betrayal. And here's where things took a sudden turn. I got a call from Liam's school. Apparently, Karen showed up that morning, sobbing, dragging Liam by the arm because he refused to get in the car. A teacher saw her screaming at him in the parking lot and reported it. When I asked Liam what happened, he said, Mommy was yelling because I asked if Coach Brent was going to live with us now. She blamed me for that too. Part 5 is when I talk to a lawyer and discover something even worse in the process. This rabbit hole goes deep. After I asked for a divorce, Karen went full hysterical, lying, manipulating our son, rewriting the story to make me the villain, and mentally falling apart. She even got reported at school for screaming at our kid. So, after Karen's breakdown at the school drop off, I knew I had to take things seriously, not just for me, but for Liam. I contacted a divorce attorney who came highly recommended by a coworker who'd gone through a similarly messy breakup. Let me tell you, this man was a shark. Calm, professional, but you could tell he'd torn people apart in court before breakfast. We met, I explained everything, showed him the call logs, photos, and audio I had. He leaned back and said, "Shh, you're sitting on a gold mine of evidence. If you want primary custody, we can fight for it and win." He also advised me to stop sleeping in the same house as her immediately and to keep a written log of every interaction. He said the kind of behavior she was showing, lying, emotional instability, parental manipulation, would not go over well with a judge. But here's where it gets crazier. While we were drafting the initial paperwork, my lawyer asked, "What do you know about Brent?" I told him the basics: coach, mid 30s, not married, works part time at the rec center. He raised an eyebrow. A few days later, he called me back and said, "You might want to sit down." Turns out Brent had 2 restraining orders in the past 5 years, one from an ex girlfriend, domestic dispute, one from a fellow female coach, inappropriate messages, unsolicited photos, borderline stalking. Both cases were settled quietly, and both were sealed, but my lawyer has connections. I felt sick. This was the guy my wife was sneaking into our home around our son. I printed out everything my lawyer gave me and showed it to Karen. She looked at it, didn't blink. Her response? Those women were crazy. They were obsessed with him. They lied. I said, "So all the women in his life lie and only he's innocent?" She stared at me and said something I'll never forget. "At least he made me feel wanted." That was the moment I stopped seeing her as someone I knew. She had become a stranger, a reckless, selfish, lying stranger. Part 6 is when things escalate legally: custody, restraining orders. And Brent? He finally makes an appearance. Tealder hired a lawyer who dug up that Brent has 2 past restraining orders, showed it to my wife. She defended him, said he made her feel wanted. I knew I had to protect my son at all costs. So, after learning about Brent's history, 2 restraining orders, one for harassment and one for abuse, I realized I wasn't just dealing with a sleazy affair. I was dealing with danger. And Liam was caught in the middle. My lawyer filed the divorce petition and a temporary custody request the same week. We also included a request for a temporary protective order, not against Karen yet, but against Brent to keep him away from Liam. I served Karen the papers at 8:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. She opened them in front of Liam and immediately started screaming. "You're suing me? This is disgusting. You're evil. You're trying to take my son." I calmly said, "You brought this on yourself." She locked herself in the bedroom and started posting cryptic Facebook statuses like, "When people show their true colors, believe them." Her friends, mostly other soccer moms, started messaging me with fake sympathy. One even said, "She's just so lost without you. Maybe give her another chance." I ignored it. I was done playing therapist to someone who lit a match and danced around the fire. Then Brent showed up. He came to our house 2 days after she was served, knowing the protective order was pending. I was picking up Liam from school, and when we pulled up, Brent's car was in the driveway. He was in the house with her. I walked in, phone recording in my pocket. He looked me up and down and said, "You can't keep her locked up forever, bro." I said, uh, "You're not supposed to be here." He laughed. "Yeah, what are you going to do? Call the cops?" So I did. The moment the officer showed up, Brent tried to play it cool, said he was just dropping off something and was invited. Karen, of course, jumped in with, "This is harassment. He's just a friend." The officer told Brent to leave immediately or risk arrest. He left. Smirking, Karen spent the rest of the night calling me a monster in front of our son. Liam, sweet, innocent Liam, asked me, "Daddy, why does mommy cry so much now?" I told him, "Because mommy made a mistake and now she's sad." He nodded and said, "I don't like Coach Brent anymore." Smart kid. Part 7 is where court gets involved. The judge, the temporary custody decision, and a surprise witness neither of us expected. I filed for divorce and a protective order against Brent. He showed up anyway. I called the cops. Karen flipped out. Liam's starting to realize something's wrong. Court is coming, and it's going to be brutal. The court hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning, family court, initial hearing for temporary custody and protective orders. I showed up with my lawyer and a carefully organized binder. Texts, audio files, screenshots, police report, school incident, character references, everything. Karen arrived 10 minutes late, looking like she had either stayed up all night crying or dramatically ruined her mascara on purpose. She came alone. No lawyer, just a folder full of what I later found out was printouts of our old vacation photos. Yes, seriously. I'll spare you the hour by hour breakdown, but here are the biggest moments. The judge was not impressed. The judge, older woman, very no nonsense, asked Karen why Brent was around our child despite his history. Karen's response: those allegations were never proven, and I believe in second chances. Brent's a good man. The judge raised her eyebrow and said, so you're okay exposing your 6-year-old son to a man with multiple restraining orders? Karen fumbled, stammered something about how the world is too quick to judge men. She was clearly flailing. Then came the surprise. Right before things were about to wrap up, the judge said someone had filed an affidavit relevant to the case. I had no idea what she was talking about. It was from Brent's ex-girlfriend. She had somehow heard about the situation, small town, social media, maybe, and sent a sworn affidavit detailing how Brent had threatened her when she tried to break up with him, including a time he showed up at her job and refused to leave. She wrote, if this man is around a child, I fear for that child's safety. I wish someone had warned me. The courtroom went silent. My lawyer looked at me and mouthed, that's your case. The judge's ruling. After all of that, here's what the judge ordered. Temporary sole physical custody to me. Supervised visitation for Karen, pending psychological evaluation. Restraining order against Brent approved. Karen is barred from bringing Brent within 100 feet of Liam. A guardian ad litem will be appointed for Liam moving forward. Karen started crying hysterically in the courtroom, yelling, he turned my own son against me. The judge looked her dead in the eye and said, no, ma'am, you did that all by yourself. She stormed out. I sat there shaking, exhausted, but victorious. For the first time in months, I felt like I had protected my son. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was fighting back. Part 8 is where Karen starts breaking down in public, and Brent, he doesn't go quietly. TLDR, court granted me temporary full custody. Karen gets supervised visits. Brent's ex came forward with a powerful affidavit. The judge saw right through Karen's act. Brent is legally banned from coming near Liam. So, court granted me temporary full custody, and Karen was allowed supervised visits twice a week at a family center. That meant she couldn't see Liam outside of scheduled times, and definitely not around Brent. I thought this would wake her up. Instead, she doubled down on the drama. The grocery store meltdown. About a week after court, I was at the store picking up groceries with Liam. Totally normal day. Karen happened to be there too. She spotted us in the cereal aisle and ran up to Liam like a reality show contestant who just found out she didn't make the finals. Karen. Baby, mommy misses you so much. Daddy's keeping us apart, but I'm fighting for you. Liam immediately backed away. I calmly stepped between them and said, Karen, this is a violation of the court order. You're not supposed to approach him like this. She exploded, started yelling in the middle of the store. You're brainwashing my son. You've turned him against me. You're a monster. People were staring. One employee called security. Liam started crying. I walked away, trying to keep it together for him. Karen had a complete breakdown, shouting about how everything was being stolen from her. I reported the incident to my lawyer, who sent it directly to the judge. 2 days later, I got a DM on Instagram from a burner account. It was obvious who it was from. Grammar like a caveman and phrases Karen used all the time. The message? You're a coward. Real men don't tear families apart. Brent's going to be Liam's real dad soon. You can't stop what's meant to be. It included a blurry selfie of Brent holding one of Liam's old soccer jerseys. I forwarded it to my lawyer. Within hours, the police visited Brent's residence to remind him of the restraining order. He denied everything, of course, said he found the jersey in the trash. Then, brace yourself, he posted a public story on his Instagram with a caption: "Some kids don't get to choose their real fathers, but one day they'll know who really loved them." I saved it, sent it to the court. Judge wasn't amused. Karen's visitations were a disaster. At her first supervised visit, she spent 45 minutes crying and trying to hug Liam, even when he clearly wasn't comfortable. He told the visitation supervisor afterward, "I like seeing mommy, but I don't like when she cries so much." Second visit, she asked him, "Do you want to come live with me and Brent when daddy calms down?" The supervisor immediately shut it down and filed a report. Strike two. At this point, it's painfully obvious Karen isn't trying to fix anything. She's trying to win, even if that means destroying herself in the process. Part 9 is where the custody battle escalates, and a shocking piece of Brent's past finally comes to light. TLDR. Karen caused a scene at a grocery store, breaking the court order. Brent sent creepy messages and posted online about being Liam's real dad. Karen's supervised visits were disturbing and manipulative. We're now building the final case for full custody. So, after Brent's weird Instagram stunt and the burner DM calling himself Liam's real dad, I asked my lawyer if we could do a deeper background check, the kind you pay good money for, not the basic online stuff. What we found made everything before look like a Disney Channel episode. Brent's hidden past, the skeleton closet, flung open. Turns out Brent had legally changed his last name about 6 years ago. Why? Because he was involved in an assault case involving a minor. Before you panic, no, he wasn't charged with child abuse, but he was charged with assault and harassment after a physical altercation with the older brother of a teenage girl he was dating when she was barely legal. He was in his mid-20s at the time. It never made the big news cycle, and the charges were pleaded down to community service, but the protective order that followed was real, and the family moved to another state shortly after. My lawyer dug up the sealed affidavit from the victim's family, thanks to his connections. It was full of disturbing language like manipulative, controlling, unstable when rejected. He targeted vulnerable girls, explosive when confronted. Oh, and there was more. He'd been fired from a youth sports program in another state after boundary issues with parents and complaints about inappropriate language with teen players. Again, no charges, but lots of smoke. The organization quietly cut ties and never filed a formal complaint, probably to avoid PR damage. Presenting it to the court. We submitted the findings as part of our updated custody filing. My lawyer said we didn't need to use all of it, just enough to prove Brent was an ongoing risk, especially with Karen showing complete disregard for boundaries. We had our next court hearing scheduled for the following week. Karen was served the new filings. An hour later, she called me. The phone call I never expected. Her voice was shaky. "Why are you digging into Brent's past? Why are you doing this to me?" I said, "You brought him around my son. I needed to know who he really is." Silence. Then she said, and I quote, "Maybe I didn't really know him either." She hung up. Later that night, she texted me a wall of nonsense. Half apology, half blame, half begging. Yes, that's three halves. That's how all over the place she was. But what stood out? One line. "You win. I don't want to fight anymore." I didn't believe it. Not yet. Karen doesn't lose. She shifts tactics. But something had clearly changed. Part 10 is where Karen tries to pull one last card, a desperate Hail Mary move to flip the narrative and get custody back. And yes, it involves a lie so big, it could have ruined everything if I hadn't seen it coming. TLDR, we dug into Brent's past and found disturbing history: assault, restraining orders, boundary issues with teens. Karen seemed shaken when served the new court filings. But it's not over. Not by a long shot. Karen's emergency filing. A few days after I submitted the updated court documents about Brent's disturbing past, I got an email from my lawyer. Karen had filed an emergency petition to regain custody. The claim? She accused me of emotional abuse, controlling behavior, and coaching Liam to say negative things about her. She alleged that I isolated Liam from his mother, that I manipulated the court with false information, and that I created a hostile environment using fake evidence. Oh, and get this. She included screenshots of texts between me and a woman to imply I was having an affair of my own. Spoiler, the woman was my cousin, and the texts were from a group chat about a family reunion. Yeah, she fabricated a scandal using out of context screenshots. Desperate doesn't even begin to cover it, but I was ready. Here's the thing about going to war with someone who used to trust you completely. They forget that you know how they think. My lawyer and I had already anticipated something like this. We kept a detailed log of Liam's reactions during every visitation, every time Karen crossed a line, every call, every tantrum. We also had statements from Liam's therapist, who confirmed he was doing better in my care and that Karen's presence caused distress. The visitation supervisor, who witnessed Karen's manipulation firsthand. My HR department, confirming my stable schedule and no history of disciplinary issues. And the final nail? The phone call I recorded the week before, where Karen said, "You win. I don't want to fight anymore." My lawyer played it in court. The judge asked, "If you didn't want to fight anymore, why did you file an emergency petition claiming abuse?" Karen froze, then tried to cry. The judge wasn't buying it. The judge's response. The judge dismissed the emergency petition immediately and warned Karen that any further false accusations could result in sanctions and loss of visitation rights. Her face, when that gavel hit, dead silent. No tears, just pure rage behind her eyes. She realized she was out of ammo. Afterwards, later that day, she texted me, "Enjoy your perfect little life. You turned my son against me. I hope you're proud." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. But that night, Liam came up to me while brushing his teeth and said, "Daddy, do I have to go see Mommy?" I knelt down and said, "Not unless you want to, buddy." He nodded, hugged me, and whispered, "I don't." I cried in the hallway after he fell asleep. Part 11 is when the custody becomes permanent. The outcome is everything I hoped for, but the fight isn't done yet. Not with Karen, because next she targets my job. TLDR, Karen filed a fake emergency petition accusing me of abuse and manipulation. She even faked affair screenshots. I had receipts, audio witness statements, therapist reports. The judge shut her down hard and warned her to back off. But she's not done. She's coming after my job next. The anonymous tip: I work in IT security for a private healthcare firm. It's a decent job, stable, high responsibility, good pay, very strict privacy regulations. One morning, my manager called me into a meeting. "Hey, this might sound weird, but we got an anonymous complaint about you." I asked what it was. They showed me an email. It was a barely coherent message claiming I was mentally unstable in the middle of a nasty custody battle and had a history of domestic abuse that made me a potential risk to confidential patient data. The email demanded they launch a full investigation and claimed to be from a concerned parent. Guess what? The writing style, the phrasing, even the double space after periods, classic Karen. Luckily, my manager and HR were familiar with my situation. I had already let them know in advance about the custody case and told them I was dealing with a vengeful ex. They flagged it as retaliation and documented it in my file, but no investigation was launched. I walked out of that office shaking, not because I was scared, but because I realized she was willing to burn my entire life down just to feel like she still had control. I had proof. Again, remember that phone recording from part 10? The one where Karen said, "You win"? Well, a minute after that part, she also said this: "You think your job makes you untouchable? I'll make them see the real you. You're not as perfect as everyone thinks." Boom, intent, malice, recorded. My lawyer added it to the pile, sent a formal cease and desist letter to Karen and to Brent, just in case he was part of the smear campaign too. And for good measure, I requested the IP address from the email sent to my company. IT traced it back to Karen's Wi-Fi. Yes, I know the guy who handled it. No, she didn't cover her tracks. We presented that to the judge in the next hearing. The judge was furious. The hammer drops. The judge ordered the following: Karen is now barred from contacting my employer, coworkers, or professional contacts in any way, directly or indirectly. She was fined for court misconduct and defamation. Her supervised visitation was reduced to once every 2 weeks, a psychological review required before any increase. A permanent restraining order was added to keep Brent away from Liam indefinitely. Karen's lawyer, yes, she finally hired one, looked defeated. Even he seemed embarrassed. Karen sat in court with this empty stare like a balloon that had finally deflated. And then she started crying. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was just angry. Too late. The damage was done. And for once, the consequences didn't fall on me. They fell on her. A moment of peace. That night, I came home, made Liam mac and cheese, and we sat on the couch watching cartoons. No stress, no chaos, just peace. He leaned over and said, "Are things okay now, Daddy?" I smiled and said, "Yeah, buddy, they're getting there." Part 12 is where I start rebuilding. Moving forward, there's still one more twist, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was winning my life back. Karen sent an anonymous email to my employer trying to get me investigated. I traced it back to her, had it documented, and used a recorded call as proof of her intent. The judge sanctioned her hard, reduced her visitation even further, and banned her from contacting my job again. Finally, moving forward. After the last hearing, things were calm, peaceful even. I was granted primary custody of Liam. Karen's supervised visits were rare and strictly monitored. Brent was legally prohibited from being near Liam. The restraining order stood. I enrolled Liam in therapy sessions to help him unpack the chaos he'd lived through. We started doing dad and son Fridays, ice cream, movie night, building Lego cities. He was finally acting like a happy kid again. No more nightmares. No more meltdowns. Just peace. For me, I started working out again, reconnected with old friends, started writing music, something I hadn't done in years. I even went on a couple of casual dates, nothing serious, just reminding myself that not every woman is a manipulative train wreck. Then one night, something weird happened. An unexpected message. I got a DM on Instagram from a random account. No profile pic, just, "Hey, I know you don't know me, but I think you should see this." Attached was a screenshot of a GoFundMe page titled, "Single Mom Unfairly Stripped of Her Son by Abusive Ex, Please Help." And the photo? Karen, holding Liam. Except it was an old picture from 2 years ago. Before everything fell apart, the description was unbelievable. After escaping a controlling, narcissistic ex-husband, I'm fighting to reunite with my son, who was taken from me by a corrupt court system. I'm living in a women's shelter and trying to rebuild my life. Every dollar helps me keep going for my little boy. There were dozens of donations, some over $100. People were commenting things like, "You're so strong, Mama." Sending prayers, "The courts are so biased against women. Your son will thank you one day." I was stunned, furious, sick. Exposing the lie, again. I forwarded the GoFundMe to my lawyer, who contacted the platform immediately. After reviewing the court orders and evidence, GoFundMe shut the campaign down within 48 hours and refunded donors. But here's the kicker. Several people who had donated started messaging me. Somehow they found my real account. And guess what? One of them turned out to be Brent's ex-wife. She told me she's done this before. She plays the victim, makes up stories, and scams people for money or sympathy. She did it while she was still with Brent, too. I tried to warn him. He didn't listen. Suddenly, everything clicked. This wasn't a one-time spiral. This was Karen's pattern. Manipulate, victimize, lie, destroy. But this time, it wasn't working. The last straw. Karen was fined again for fraudulent fundraising using a minor's image without consent. The judge officially suspended her visitation rights until she completes psychiatric counseling and proves stability over a 6-month period. As of now, she hasn't even started. Brent, I heard through the grapevine he's taking time for himself. Translation, Karen torched his life too. And Liam, he's doing amazing. He made the school soccer team without Brent, thankfully, and I'm there cheering him on every game. One more thing, I've started documenting everything, not just for court, not just for Reddit, but for Liam. So that one day, when he's old enough to understand, I can show him, this is how hard I fought for you. This is what we survived. This is how we came out stronger. Part 13 is coming soon, and it's all about healing, finally. TLDR, Karen created a fake GoFundMe campaign claiming I was abusive and she was homeless. Used an old photo of our son. Platform shut it down. She was fined. Her visitations are suspended indefinitely. Meanwhile, Liam and I are finally healing. Karen's visitation rights were officially suspended. No more drama. No more manipulative text messages. No more Liam coming home confused or scared after supervised visits. She's supposed to undergo counseling and psychiatric evaluation before she can even ask for visitation again. But word is she's too busy blaming everyone else to do the work. So for now, she's completely out of our lives. And it's been strangely quiet in the best way. A different Liam. Without the tension hanging over us, Liam started to change. It wasn't immediate, but it was steady. He stopped asking, "Will mom be mad?" before doing simple things like drawing or choosing dinner. He started sleeping through the night. He actually smiled in pictures again. One night, we were watching a movie and he said, "I like it when it's just us." That hit me harder than anything else because I realized he'd been living in fear too, not just of Karen's yelling or drama, but of being caught in the middle. My own healing for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells. I went back to therapy, started journaling again. I even took a weekend trip, just Liam and me, to the mountains. We hiked, roasted marshmallows, and talked about the stars. No phones, no court documents, no lawyers, just us. I also started being more honest with myself about the red flags I ignored during my marriage, the way Karen always played the victim, how she manipulated people, how she twisted reality when it suited her. It wasn't just the cheating that broke us, it was the fact that she was never a partner, just a storm I was trying to survive. New beginnings? This isn't a love story. God, no. But I've been talking to someone. Casual. Kind. A single mom I met at one of Liam's soccer games. We've only gone for coffee so far, nothing serious, but it feels human. No lies. No games, just two people talking like adults. I'm taking it slow. Liam is still my priority, but after everything, it feels nice to be treated like a person again. Liam's wish. Last week, I asked Liam what he wanted for his birthday. He said, "I want to have a party with you, Uncle Jake, and Grandma, and I want to make the cake ourselves like last year." No mention of Karen, no sadness, just simple, quiet joy. That's when I knew we're going to be okay. TLDR, with Karen's visitation suspended, peace returned. Liam is thriving, I'm healing, we're rebuilding our lives without drama, fear, or manipulation. And for the first time in years, we're both truly happy. A letter from CPS about 3 weeks after Karen's visitation was suspended. I received a letter. Child Protective Services. They wanted to schedule an in-home visit. An anonymous report had been made alleging neglect, unsafe living conditions, and verbal abuse toward Liam. My heart dropped. I knew immediately who was behind it. There's only one person who would go that far out of spite and who had just lost custody. I called my lawyer immediately, who assured me not to panic. These things happen more often than people think in contentious custody battles. But still, this was serious. The home visit. 2 days later, a CPS worker arrived at my house. I welcomed her in. I had nothing to hide. She checked everything: cleanliness, food in the fridge, Liam's room safe and tidy, school records, pediatrician visits. She also asked to speak with Liam privately. I stepped outside while she did. 15 minutes later, she came out smiling. Honestly, this is one of the healthiest parent-child environments I've seen in a while. I'll be closing the case as unfounded. Your son clearly adores you, and there are no concerns here. I thanked her. I was relieved. But more than that, I was angry. Karen tried to use the system to destroy me. Again, this wasn't just petty, it was dangerous. Weaponizing CPS could have ripped Liam away from his home even temporarily. Legal consequences. I sent the case summary to my lawyer. He immediately filed a motion to terminate Karen's parental rights. We presented the fake GoFundMe scam, the restraining order violation, her refusal to attend court-ordered counseling, and now the false CPS report, proven and documented. Last week, the judge issued a permanent no-contact order. Karen's rights were officially terminated. Unless she wins a major appeal, which, based on her history, is highly unlikely, she will never see Liam again. Tash, her reaction. So, of course, she didn't take it well. She posted a rant on Facebook claiming the judge was sexist, that I brainwashed Liam, and that she was going to take her case to the Supreme Court. It was full of typos, delusions, and comments from her three remaining friends saying things like, "Stay strong, babe. Truth always wins." But truth already did win, and this time, she couldn't twist it. TLDR, Karen filed a fake CPS report against me out of spite. CPS closed the case with no issues. I used this as evidence to file for full termination of her parental rights. Judge approved. Karen is now legally banned from contacting Liam ever again. A quiet home. Our house is quiet now, but it's the good kind of quiet, the kind filled with calm dinners, weekend hikes, bedtime stories, and laughter. Liam no longer looks over his shoulder or flinches when someone raises their voice on TV. He plays with confidence. He asks questions. He tells bad jokes. He's becoming himself again. He asked me recently if he could redecorate his room. I said, sure, it's your space. He took down the last photo he had with Karen and quietly replaced it with a drawing he made of the two of us at a campfire. He even wrote in block letters, me and Dad, best team ever. I cried in the hallway that night. Where's Karen now? Rumor has it she's moved in with Todd. The two of them are trying to start some youth soccer training business, but based on the reviews I've seen on Yelp, it's not going great. Uh, Apparently, parents don't like it when one of the coaches has a restraining order and a terminated custody ruling. She still tries to post about how unjust everything was, but fewer and fewer people listen. Her audience is shrinking because her lies don't hold up anymore. What I learned, if you've read this far, here's what I want you to take away. 1. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't gaslight yourself into ignoring your gut. 2. Documentation is power. I didn't expect my life to turn into a legal battle, but when it did, I was glad I had screenshots, emails, and a timeline of events. 3. Protect your peace and your kids' peace at all costs. No relationship is worth walking on eggshells forever, especially not in front of your child. Shashar 4. People will reveal themselves. Sometimes you just have to sit back and watch. The truth always surfaces. Karen exposed herself with every desperate move she made. 5. You will survive. I didn't think I would, but I did, and now I'm stronger, wiser, and calmer than I ever was before. What's next? We're planning a vacation. Just me and Liam. Somewhere sunny with no courtrooms, no Wi Fi, and no toxic people. Just father and son. A fresh start. TLDR, my wife's affair led to the complete collapse of our marriage. But after fighting for custody, surviving lies and manipulations, and finally winning peace, my son and I have a new life. One without Karen, and it's beautiful. Thank you, Reddit. Your advice, your rage on my behalf, your support, it kept me sane during the worst time of my life. We made it.